involve my... I heard something I don't like.
Why did this have to happen to me?
I'd say it's because bad things happen to bad people. You'll sling your barbs from a safe distance, but once you're on the other side of it, you curl up and play victim.
You know, when I watched G4 years ago, I always thought that, this always needed some politics in it. That's what I really wanted when I'm hearing about games and tech. And apparently, the fine folks at G4 currently thought that, yeah, that's exactly what they need. They need to inject politics into gaming and tech. And this is what happened a few days ago when their host, Froskurinn, whatever her name is, decided to go on a complete tirade about sexism in video games, where originally they were talking about Red Dead Online. So a lot has happened over the past number of days. Not really any good news for G4, but I'm going to get into it, and I won't be alone. I have my good friend here as a guest today, Jen Pachi, and we're going to go over this whole nonsense right now.
Yeah, so my whole stake with that the politics that they're putting into G4 is more so, it's kind of a scapegoat, right? It's like she received flack for her comments on the PS4, where she was saying there were no exclusives and she got some information wrong, and she was attacked on it online, and then she started getting bashed for other reasons of, like, obviously not only not being knowledgeable, but also hate to say it, but tough on the eyes as well. It's like, you would think they would accept responsibility, for their actions, and it just seems like if you look at comments made by Adam Sessler and Isaac Frost, I call Frost Isaac Frost, I'm sorry, it's just like she's frosty, I don't know, but the point is that, and you see how their emphasis is on diversity hires, being a social activist, and that's never been what G4 has really been about, right? Like, even previous hosts like Olivia Munn and Morgan Webb, they were attractive women, right? Like, I didn't find Morgan Webb that attractive, more so Olivia Munn, but it doesn't even matter, right? Because, like, they were still entertaining. Like, they were entertaining characters, and I feel like you listen to Frost talk, and she just doesn't have charisma. It's just like abysmal to watch these people talk. They're on a couch, discussing games. It feels nothing like the previous G4, and in fact, in their absence, since they were gone, YouTube commentators, other channels have kind of filled that void that G4 once had a bit of a monopoly on, right? Where, like, they were the tech gaming guys. So for me, I look at her comments as, you guys are already, you know what's funny? I didn't even know they were back. I didn't even know they were back until Revenant told me, which is crazy. Like, and I was a big fan of G4 back in the day, and that shows you how off the radar they've been. So why would you go and divide your fan base, alienate your fan base by making it a political thing, when in the end it shouldn't matter? You should be talking about gaming. You should be talking about trends, about what's happening in gaming, new releases, tech. Why make it political and then get mad when it doesn't work out in the way that you wanted it to work out, right? So
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much agree with everything you were saying. So their idea with her little viral video, they wanted a viral video that would benefit them. They wanted that Slay Queen moment, and they got that, but it didn't turn out the way that they wanted to, and for good reason, because, shocking, people don't want to be lectured about shit that they didn't do. And on top of that, this woman, if you want to call it that, I don't know if she's trans or not, I have no idea, but we'll call her a woman out of respect. So Frost, a few tweets that she had recently, actually, around November of 2020, well, it's not that recent, but you know what I mean. So she had something where it said, "Get fucked Trump," and someone replied that, you can't see anymore because they deleted it. But she replied, "I don't want Trump supporters as fans. Cheers." On top of that, what else was she saying? So I'm trying to pull up some of her tweets because, this is a very nice, really nice individual, since she was going on about telling people in 2022 we should all be a little bit nicer to each other. But funny thing, that tweet that I had read, it's really nice, isn't it? It's very welcoming to everyone, no matter where you line with politics, because I guess apparently now that matters. But she also had wrote something here where, as always, very excited for the LEC to begin and watch my peers continue to thrive. That team is fucking amazing. That said, we really need to talk diversity in esports broadcast, because holy shit, that is a lot of white. Just blindingly white. As far as the eye can see, white. So apparently this white woman has a problem with a lot of white people in gaming. And I actually found out recently that she does go on these little tirades after a while talking about all the problems in gaming, and these really aren't really problems as far as what can really innovate in gaming and whatnot. It's more so about sexism and diversity and all that. And you can see by the people they have, the little panel that they have on X-Play and G4 in general, it's all diversity hires. And when she went on her little rant, if you will, you had the two obese seagulls, the completionists, as much as he wants to grow out his beard, it's not going to hide the fact that he has a mountain of chins, and the black Hokage, or the black Hoagie. So two obese people, one white, one black. So they got that out the way. And then you have the old shriveled prune Adam Sessler himself, who's probably still on coke or something. But he's just as bad, because he said, just as I can get it out my system once for the day, Republicans are stupid, racist, and drink piss. So these are people, of course, doing everything they can to make themselves seem holier than thou when the cameras are rolling. But on their free time, they act like this. So this is something that happened recently. Well, not that long ago, actually. Maybe, I want to say December. He responded to someone. I don't know what the hell they said. But it's what Adam Sessler had said. Not for me. As I said yesterday, all the Republicans in my family can eat shit and die while I sip something bubbly.
Incredible.
And these are the people who want to play moral police and point fingers at you and say how terrible you are, how sexist, racist, and homophobic, all this other stuff that you are. But for them, these are great people in the industry.
Well, to add to your point, I feel like people lose sight of what diversity should really be for, right? Like, how it should be implemented, because it's not about forcing diversity just for the sake of diversity. It's about allowing people from all different walks of life to have the opportunity, if they're skilled enough, if they are skilled and qualified enough to fill those roles, not just for the sake of it, right? Because like there's a narrative of like you say something like, all right, what you mentioned about her saying that there's too much white everywhere, right? Yeah. But at the same time, right, like, if race doesn't matter, it shouldn't bother people how if something's white, black, or Hispanic. We should all look at each other as people. It shouldn't be a thing of like, well, this guy is white, so inherently it's too white. We gotta add more minorities, add more social groups, etc., because it doesn't mean they're gonna be good people. It doesn't mean they're gonna be qualified. It just means that it's forced diversity, right? As far as you were saying about like these people like Adam Sessler and the kind of comments he's made in the past, it's like you can talk all this peace, love nonsense, but when you're asking your family members, when you're saying you hope your family members, what was it, die of COVID or something like that, or die or something, just die or whatever. It's pretty heinous, right? Like, you can't just have a differing opinion, you know? Like, I make a lot of Tekken videos, and, you know, some of the groups I'm in are filled with, like, diverse people from all over the world. Like, you know, from, like, Pakistan, Korea, whatever. You know, I talk in groups, in chats on PS4 with people that play Tekken from all walks of life, all over the country. Like, politics, your personal beliefs, you don't have to agree with us. You don't have to agree with me and my beliefs. I don't have to agree with you. But they shouldn't affect our entertainment. It shouldn't affect our ability to engage with other people. It shouldn't be a thing where like, oh well, this person's on the left or this person's on the right. I can't play games with them. I can't just talk about the games, talk about whatever. I have to make it political, right? Like, it's okay that you don't agree with people, and you don't have to like everybody. Everybody doesn't have to like you either, and people lose sight of that. You know, they feel like they have to enforce their agenda, their will on everybody else, and you know, I just think that it's one of those things where it's obnoxious and it doesn't make you a good or bad person, and just because you chose to vote a certain way or vote another way. But also to add more to it, G4, and it's crazy because gaming you would think would be the one thing where people can just say, hey, this game is bad or good, I enjoyed this, you can be competitive. It should be one of the few things where you can just play and have fun and enjoy what you're doing without politics being interjected into it, right? You see a lot of like superheroes. I mean, this is a bit off subject, but it's kind of like a similar realm where you have woke police. You have, what was the word you used? What was that word you used, Remnant? Which one? Well, basically, like, these people are trying to tell you who's a good and bad person, right? Woke brigade, whatever you want to call it. It's like, you should be able, if you can only relate to a character because he looks like you also have a whole nother set of problems that you're projecting onto other people as well. Like, there's so many layers to it that honestly we're just looking at like a situation where the media is massively one-sided, and they're putting out an agenda of and telling people who's good and bad, and it's kind of making people afraid to speak on. It's making people afraid to speak on what they like, on what they really feel, right? It's making them feel like no one, that if they don't think a certain way, they'll be ostracized by society. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And it's wrong. It's, in my opinion, it's objectively wrong. And Frosk is just like she's just like a symptom of a bigger problem. She's just kind of like a wart, right? Like, there's a virus and she's just a wart, and the wart lets you know, and it shows us how sick, society has become, See, I would have respected Frost. The problem with Frost is not even just it's not even so much how she looks at all, really. It's just the fact that she chose to interject her politics into a place where it wasn't needed, and it was also done as a scapegoat of her own lack of knowledge, her own mess up. She should have just, I would have respected if she just acknowledged she made a mistake, talked about gaming, ignored the comments, and just kind of like allowed her skill and professionalism to shine through.
Exactly, that's the big problem, where she clearly had let her insecurities get the best of her, and she seems like someone who has a lot of insecurity problems in general. And her response to the negative feedback she was getting off of the attempted viral video was that my inbox looking like some weak ass Xbox Live messages these days. Thanks for the engagement on my stuff, taking these clicks all the way to the bank. And that's funny because she's talking about taking the clicks to the bank. Wouldn't any of the revenue on, whether if it's their Twitch channel, their YouTube channel, or wherever, wouldn't that be split between other people? So if we're going based off of that, you're not going to get much off of that. And clearly she's trying to deflect. She's trying to hide from what's going on. And it shows a lot when she does this little rant, and then at the end of it, she's wiping her eyes off. So you're trying to make yourself seem so badass and just stunning and brave, when the reality is that you're just weak. You're mentally weak. You don't have thick skin. You have thin skin. So why even come to the internet? And on top of all that, you're talking about, I'm reading these weak ass Xbox Live messages these days and whatnot. If it's all this stuff is so weak ass messages that you're apparently getting, that you're seemingly laughing off, then what was the whole point of your rant when you talk about, I read the chat, all the things you're saying to me, the way you trying to objectify me. I'm not like Olivia Munn or Morgan Webb, and you try to objectify them, and how you were a fan growing up watching X-Play, and if you watched X-Play or G4 as a whole, then you would know and be self-aware of what these women had done, because they weren't afraid of who they were. They weren't afraid of being a woman. Just because you decide to throw a bunch of tattoos all over yourself, piercings, and different hairdo every week, to look the way you look doesn't mean that you should just be going around acting like, oh, Morgan Webb and Olivia Munn weren't easy on the eyes when they were. They had no problem looking like women. Just because you want to look like a little boy or a lesbian or whatever, that's not their fault. And attacking them and trying to make them feel whatever type of way to get people to sympathize with you is wrong. If you're insecure, then take it. Deal with it like a woman. Instead of acting like a little bitch.
And more to that point of what you're saying, right? Like, if you look at X-Play, like, the same management, if I'm not mistaken, is genuinely involved, right? It's like part of the same. It's the same organization. It's X-Play.
It's different people.
It's different people, but it's still X-Play, right? So she's part of the infrastructure that she's claiming to be against in the end, right? Like, Adam Sessler had no problem being there when Olivia Munn was there, when Morgan Webb was there, and all those people. Like, here's the thing that people don't like, right? And the major thing people don't like is that yes, people are going to choose. They're going to be attracted to something, and people are going to be better at something than you are. No matter how much you complain, no matter how angry you get, no matter how much you want to speak out against something, people want to be entertained, right? Like, yeah, Olivia Munn and Morgan Webb were eye candy, but they were also knowledgeable and charismatic, right? And of course they were hired partially because of their looks. It's probably not like entirely, but most likely a big part of it had to do with that. But that's because it sells. Why deny reality? Why lie to ourselves? It's not to say Frosk has no qualities that are worth listening to or watching, but to be mad because people are saying she's not Olivia Munn doesn't help her case at all, you know? And in general, right? Like, even if everybody was a gray blob, there would be a grayest blobbiest of everybody else. That's just how people are. It's a competitive environment. People are going to be stronger than you. People are going to be smarter. People are going to be faster. You train, you work hard, because that's not the ending factors. But we have to accept that. And the whole reason I'm bringing this up is because Frosk is a great example of somebody who is blaming others for her own not accepting reality, basically, right? Like, it's fine that she doesn't look like Olivia Munn, Morgan Webb. I don't think anybody's asking for her to look like that. I think she just opened up herself to attack because she compared herself to those women. I would have, like I said before, I would have respected it way more if she just stuck to being a game journalist, being knowledgeable, whatever. But she doesn't. She also has proven to not be knowledgeable. So in the end of the day, Adam Sessler and Frost can point their fingers as much as they want, but in the end, they're just hurting their own brand. They're just dividing their own brand. There's something else I wanted to say. I can't remember exactly what it was, but that's more or less the gist of it. I think also when it comes to Adam Sessler, like, he knows better. He knows what he's doing. You know, he knows what's going on. And for him to like, even when they were on stage talking about the Sony thing, he hears her clearly about PS4 and Microsoft. He clearly hears her saying incorrect information, and nobody on stage could correct her. Nobody on stage could say, hey, you got this information wrong. How much could you respect somebody if you can't even correct them when they're clearly objectively wrong? You know?
Yeah, exactly. And you can correct people without being disrespectful. It's very easy to do that when saying, hey, you're incorrect, you got something wrong. And if her excuse, which it seemed like her excuse, was that we have a staff of writers and I read one part and the other person reads this part, I write this part, the other one person. So what is your thoughts? Like, what are you really saying? Is any of this how you feel? And it also seems like she's trying to put the blame on the writers and staff at G4, which again is fucked up, because just take responsibility. You got something wrong. It's okay. Just own up to it and move on. That is your job, to get things right and correct and know what you're talking about. So when you get something wrong on a platform, when a camera's on your face, when you're on YouTube, TV, wherever, people expect you to get it right. There's an expectation that goes with that. So when people are flaming you, as you want to put it, online, it's because you got something wrong, because you said something stupid, you sound uninformed, and you just come across as someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. And then these people wonder why people have a problem when women are involved with geek culture, because a lot of times you have people like Frosk who clearly doesn't know what she's talking about. She'd rather talk about sexism in video games and make all these different complaints, burn every bridge in her last job or whatever she's coming from, because she has a problem. She clearly has problems, and no one wants to correct her on it on that little panel of cucks that they got there. And then she wants to make it into a whole gender bullshit tirade just to put all the flack off of her and move on to something else, because they had to get that little viral slay queen moment that they desperately wanted, and now it's backfiring on them. And at the end of the day, people just don't want to hear it. They're going away. They don't want any part of it anymore, because it's not what it used to be, and they know it's not going to be that way. So all faith, all goodwill is gone when people just want to hear about gaming. They don't want to hear just about politics 24/7, no matter what. You could have just kept it going, talk about Red Dead Online, and left it at that. But no, you had to make it about yourself and deflect from your own personal responsibilities as someone who is supposed to be a host of a gaming and tech show, when you can't even do that right. And once people criticize you for it, you want to play the victim and then hide behind it like, oh, you owning everyone, when you're not.
Yeah, I actually think that's a good point. I mean, here's the thing. In the end, there's always going to be attractive and unattractive, strong and weak, smart, not as smart, good, bad. I mean, like, you know, it's just, everyone's different. Everyone has different qualities. You have one quality in one place and one quality in another, but like a better quality, your stats are, you know, we're speaking of gaming, your stats are not balanced. Most people don't have balanced stats. They're better in one area than another, right? And you know, these people just don't understand that, right? Like, they can't handle like the idea of masculinity, right? And like, it's just a denial of reality. You know, you lift weights, what happens? You get stronger. You're moving like a gymnast, like a peak athlete, you're gonna look like a peak athlete. If you look at a character like Catwoman, look at a character like Black Cat, Wonder Woman. They're peak athletes. They're flipping through the air. They're super strong. And if you look at people that are comparative in the real world, a lot of times they're built in a similar way. If you ever look at a female gymnast or Olympian, you know, they're usually generally built, you know, strong legs, you know, hips, muscular upper body, you know. And that's the other thing. People always overlook the fact that these characters, they only see like the small waist hip ratio. They don't look at the fact that they are muscular characters. A lot of times the female characters are drawn to look strong because they are strong. You know, it's just a lot of delusion. I think also when it comes to like all that stuff in general, you have to understand they're not going to reciprocate, you know, with you. They want everyone else to be like, well, you know, let me look at it let's watch X Play because I want to support X Play because I want to be entertained. But they won't do those same like left-wing like nuts, people like Adam Sessler, they won't reciprocate that. They're not going to watch your non-SJW, your non-woke show. They want you to die. They hate you. So like my advice would be is just don't give them your views. Don't give them your money. Stop giving these people your money. You know? You know, let the statement be true. The tried and true, go woke, go broke. You know, because in the end of the day, if you're a creator who doesn't share similar voting beliefs, they're not going to support you. And in fact, they're going to hate you just solely based off of that. Any normal, rational person is going to say, well, aside from your personal beliefs, I'm going to respect your humanity. And, you know, just because you vote a certain way doesn't mean I wish death upon you. But, you know, these people are weirdos and they're crazy. Don't give them your money. Let them die. Let them fall into obscurity. And I'm happy to see that G4, you know, I was a big fan of it. But if they die because of this, so be it. Maybe it has to die for the greater good. And then maybe somebody like Frost can learn that, hey, let your merits speak for themselves and stop trying to interject politics where it doesn't belong. Because most people want to go into gaming as an escape, not to listen to more politics. So.
Yeah. And that's pretty much the gist of what we wanted to talk about with this whole G4 nonsense. So maybe they'll learn their mistake, but I doubt it because usually they don't. And whatever happens to them, and I won't feel bad. It shouldn't have been brought back to begin with because I think a lot of us would have known this would have happened sooner or later, but yeah. So that's the end of this video. That's all we got to say about the situation. Simply put, you can believe in what you want in politics or whatever. You can leave it out of gaming and everything else other than that. Because at the end of the day, we just want to hear about what you're talking about. We don't want to hear anything additional nonsense going on. It's not about that. We didn't come here for that. There's other alternatives for that if you really wanted that badly. And a lot of people just getting tired of this shit. And rightfully so. So G4, if you die again, you die again. No one's going to feel bad for you. You did it to yourself. And like Jim Pachi said, go woke, go broke.
Oh my goodness! It's disgusting!